Hey there, welcome in to Take Two with Hawk. He's the Hawk, Superintendent of Schools in Copperas Cove ISD, Dr. Brent Hawkins. I'm his sidekick. I don't know another thing to call myself other than your sidekick, Curtis Quillen, and happy to be back here on another episode of Take Two.
Being a sidekick isn't a bad thing. If you're no history teacher, you grow to enjoy reading about the biographies of great things that happen. If nothing great happens, then the sidekick and anybody else is irrelevant.
That's fair. That is a fair point. So we're recording this on Tuesday, November 18th. If you're listening to this, it is Wednesday, November 19th or later. Let's start like we always do, Dr. Hawkins, with good things. And a lot of good things happening in Copperas Cove ISD. There's a lot of playoff dogs in the district, and that spans beyond athletics too.
Yeah, we're extremely proud of all of our kids. From athletics to fine arts to CTE, and UIL academics have all put together a real successful run here. And, those kids, it's great to have success. You see some districts that have success in an area, and that's great for them if that's what they want. But, we just kind of have a philosophy that, we're supposed to be the champion of all kids and all dreams. And so from that said, it's important that we have wide-ranging success from one end of our school to the other.
And so some of the groups that you mentioned some of them there, but I'll hit on some of the other ones. Tennis advanced into the 6A playoffs. And in the fall, I believe that's team tennis. Mm-hmm. Then you've got cross country with a runner who we'll recognize at tonight's board meeting, who advanced to the regional cross country meet. Lady Dog volleyball clinched its 20th consecutive berth in the UIL 6A playoffs. Then you've got football back in the playoffs for the first time since 2018. You mentioned that one, band at area marching contest for I don't know how many straight years at this point. And then if you read the Copperas Cove Leader Press, you probably saw the story Lynette Sal did with the barbecue team at Copperas Cove High School in just the second year of that team's existence, advancing to state. And so to see the success both in well-established programs and new programs just kind of shows the energy around the school.
Yeah, and spinning off that CTE deal there, you Future Farmers of America had their leadership development events, and it was very sobering for me last year at the FFA banquet to see the small number of students. I think I said on one of our podcasts that's the smallest FFA banquet that I've ever been to in my life, and then the small number of awards and accolades that they had displayed there, and so. We already attained more at the LDE competition than we had displayed last year, and so we're very proud of those kids. We have 2 or 3 teams in that chapter conducting team or the quiz team. The quiz team has been really a leader in that area, and they're advancing to the area contest, and so we're very proud of them and wish them well as well.
With that, let's get into our main topics today. And so this is our first episode after Election Day. We do apologize for the delay, but I think I can confidently speak for you when I say we needed a rest after Election Day. The big talker in town, obviously, Bond 2025, 2 out of 3 propositions passed. Proposition A, which provides expansions and renovations to 3 of the greatest need campuses in the district, Copperas Cove High School, Fairview Jewel Elementary, and Copperas Cove Junior High School. And the Proposition B, which is the fine arts renovation and expansion at Copperas Cove High School. Both of those passed. Those votes have been canvassed and certified by the Board of Trustees at this point, and so I'll kind of hand it off to you. But to me, what that signifies to me is the kids win because, and I don't want to talk about winning and losing, but the kids finally they get the updates that they've needed programmatically that we've sat here on this podcast and talked about.
Yeah, I think it's a day of jubilation for me, just from the standpoint of, I went through from August until November 4th a gag order, and so the person who is responsible for the district is only able to discuss the facts of the plan and of the propositions. And so if you don't do that, then it's an ethics violation and all of that. And so rolling into November 4th, that was, win, lose, or draw. It was great to me just to be able to speak freely again. I don't believe in censorship. And I think that as long as people can be respectful and not make things personal or not make things vulgar in nature, then people ought to be able to speak their viewpoints. And so you give up a piece of that as superintendent for that time. And so that's very difficult for me because, I'm pretty opinionated about things. And so to be at this point to where I can speak freely, this is the first podcast we've had in quite a while. And we've had several that I feel like now I'm able to talk freely to the community and everything and not be worried about really couching my words to make sure that I'm presenting the facts, but that I'm not, doing anything unethical.
So there's obviously some questions and that the community is going to have about the effects of Bond 2025's passage. I encourage you, if you haven't already, go to the district's YouTube channel. If you're watching this podcast, good chance you're already there. If you're listening to it, we appreciate it. But you can go to the CCISD YouTube channel. And there was a press conference that was hosted the following day once the unofficial election results were tallied. Wednesday morning, invited the press in and talked with them at length. We didn't shut down anybody's questions in that, and I hope you see that when you watch that about what the implementation of it looks like. And so when we had Doug Witt on here before the election, he mentioned that probably sell the first round of bonds in January. After that, where do we go as a district on implementing what was promised in Bond 2025?
Yeah, well, we've already started, and we were started by the board hiring the architect firm, of Goodwin Laster Strong GLS, back several months ago, back in the planning process, and so the good thing is that contract is still in play, and so we didn't have to wait when the bond was passed to start the design phase. And so the design phase of this project will take, probably at least 6 months, and that's drawing blueprints and doing the program guides and everything that has to be done in order for the construction manager agent to be able to go out for bids on the project. And so that's kind of where we are. We're on track. We've met with the financial consultants, Samco, Doug Witt, that was in our former podcast, to really look at things and to ensure that everything that we're trying to do from a financial standpoint in selling those bonds are to stretch every dollar that we can. We really wanted to come through this bond process and undersell and over deliver. We never want to over promise and not be able to deliver it. And there were plenty of critics along the way that they wanted to say, well, this is what you can do. Well, you couldn't do it anywhere near that. And it's very important to me for the longevity of this school district and the students we serve that we make sure that when we say something, we mean what we say and we say what we mean, because when it comes time, 10 years or so down the line for another bond, we want the community to say, hey, you know what, last time this is what they said and they did even better than that. And so we have that fiduciary responsibility from a financial standpoint that we're trying to stretch every dollar. And then from a design standpoint, we're trying to stretch every dollar to give our kids the most robust delivery of what was planned as possible. We got great kids in this district, and they deserve our very best. And as hard as we work through this process, we're not going to stop. We're not going to sleep. We've got, anywhere from 3 to 4 years on this thing in completing it in totality, where the punch list comes out of the final construction. And we're going to do everything we can to be very vigilant, to make sure that we communicate with the community, to make sure that we do the things that we said that we were going to do.
So one of the ways that that I think people would ask next is, so how can we see where we're at? And so I want to take the lead on that one and then pivot to you after that. We already have a construction updates page live at ccisd.com. If you're on the home page, it's under the district tab, but you can also get there from the operations and support landing page, as well as the superintendent page at ccisd.com/superintendent. So multiple ways to get there. Right now, it is on the baseball softball field. We have other pictures that we are working on loading onto that website, so you'll be able to see where we're at with the Williams Ledger reconstruction, which we'll get to here in a second in greater detail. The Lee Ledger Auditorium rigging update that was approved by the trustees quite a while ago, and is in progress right now. And then as those bond projects are added, once dirt starts moving and hammers start swinging, those will get added to that page as well, and you'll be able to get there from the bond website. Again, the bond website where we will keep you updated on everything to do with the implementation of that bond. I believe it was $154.5 million that passed. Mm-hmm. All of that will be still on that same website, ccisdbond.com. You'll see us producing the same level of content as well. There will be pictures in Hawks Talk newsletters that come out of the district. You'll see videos posted to district channels like YouTube for one, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and anywhere else where you find CCISD content. We'll make sure that we update you on all the same channels where we were informing you during the election process.
Absolutely. We'll have, I will do even some community meetings around the district for civic groups and those people who were so gracious to have us come in as we move forward. I will do updates there so that they can see that, and the board meeting as well. Our Board of Trustees will be kept up to date, both tour-wise and in meetings. We will make sure that we give updates, and so look at those board meetings and stay up in there, because we want to push out as much information as possible so everybody knows kind of where we are when we are.
And then another place, so the board still has to take action on the sale of the bonds and then approving the bids, correct?
Yes, in January they'll take action on the sale of the bonds. They will also have to take action. We have awarded a construction manager agent, and so they'll have a contract that we will have to take action on as well along the way there with Gallagher Construction. They've done a phenomenal job. I've seen work that they've done in Van Alstyne, and then of course Forney. So they've done some billion-dollar jobs, and then they've done some districts that are smaller than us. But nonetheless, they're very respected all across the state, even into East Texas. They've done some jobs in Buffalo and Woodville over in East Texas, and really did what they said that they were going to do. And that's what you want when you work with people, is to do what you said you were going to do and deliver. And so aside from that, we will be at least 6 months out before those bids come out for our subcontractors and such, because it will take that long to design everything. So the person that says, hey, we passed the bond, why is the dirt not moving? Well, we got to make sure that we dot every I and cross every T. And, there's lots of codes and working with cities and just lots of dynamics that have to come into place. So, you're at least 9 months out from dirt moving.
There's still laws that take effect on how you get the dirt moving at that point.
Absolutely.
Anything else on Bond 2025 at this point? I know we're only about 2 weeks out from election.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I want to say. Number one, for those who went to the ballot box and exercised your civic duty for the kids of Cove, thank you. On behalf of those kids, they deserve our very best. And we're going to work day and night to make sure that we don't let anybody down in that process. This whole construction feat with that big a project is definitely taxing on staffing, because you're doing all the other jobs that you're doing, as well as this job as well. But it's going to be a special project. It'll be one that leaves an impact on this district for well over a half of a century. And I can assure you, when it is complete, you will see a great benefit for our kids, and that's what we're here for. So those who went and voted for that, thank you. Those who went and voted against it, I thank you for voting. And I don't lump everybody into the same bowl, so to speak. In today's day and times, I think it's important that we realize research says that 40% of the people in a bond election are automatically going to be against the bond. 40%. Well, Proposition A passed by like 61% of the vote. And you say, well, Dr. Hawkins, you beat the average there. Here's some anomalies that I just want to talk through to tell. Number one, this is the largest bond project in the history of this district, so it's historic. Okay. Aside from that, I truly believe that we got into a very imperfect storm, and what I mean by that is that I think everybody knew when that first bond failed that something was going to have to happen at some point.
Yeah.
And so, we go through the process. I thought that we put a very good process together to where we opened up for the community, grassroots. Hey, come be a part of this. Naysayers. We needed naysayers in there, and we started out with 80 people in that process. And so we go through that process, and at that point, we had studied all of the issues and challenges of Bond 2024. And, there was not a real big issue. You're welcome to go back and look through all of the social media pages and all of the literature that was put out there by journalists and whatnot. And there wasn't an anti-tax push, so to speak. But as we went out for bond, you had two dynamics. You had a very volatile issue bubble up with the county, Coryell County, and them attempting to raise the tax rate over 20%. And then you had a controversy that was started at City Hall with the street fee. I'm not throwing rocks at either one of those. I'm just pointing out that those two dynamics drove a very much anti-tax resistance toward the school. Three different entities, three totally different entities. But nonetheless, sometimes you get in the middle of the creek and you figure out things, or you have challenges along the way that you just didn't have before. Maybe the last creek you crossed was pretty easy ford. And then as you start to ford this creek, you get in there and there's different dynamics along the way. And that's what happened in this deal. So we had a whole different highly charged, emotional group that did not want taxes increased. And honestly, many of them flat told me, hey, I'm mad at the city and I'm mad at the county, and basically I'm taking it out on you. And look, I can respect that. I'm very fiscally conservative in most of my thoughts about taxation, and I've made it real clear that we don't have property taxes right as a state, and so I wish more people would get engaged with Austin and the things that's going on there. But nonetheless, that dynamic, this is my personal opinion, and I'll tell you, I always try to separate opinion from facts. But if those dynamics of the tax issue hadn't happened, I think we're at minimum very conservative, 15% more in support of those propositions than what we got, which 61% is kind considered a landslide. Anything out of the 50s is considered a landslide. But I think that there was votes out there on the table, and I think that's why you saw Proposition A win the for vote more than the 2024 for and against vote.
Yeah.
So all of the people that voted for and against the 2024 bond, Proposition A won by more votes than that whole election was. And so it was really a remarkable turnout. There were a lot of people that came and expressed their views, and I appreciate all of them's views, because I understood those people who were angry about their taxes. I mean, I totally do. You know, and then there was a group of people out there that was angry at the district, and it might have been things that happened 10 years ago, and so I tried to explain to them that, you know, we're voting on the kids of today and the kids of tomorrow, not the decision of the adults of a decade ago. And, you know, and right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm not saying that they were right or justified or anything like that. They're entitled to their own opinion. And so they didn't trust the district, or they were angry at the district and whatnot. And then I think there were some people in a third category that just took it as a sporting event. You know, they're the people who I've talked about that will boo Santa Claus.
Yeah.
If he pulled up in the parking lot right now. And so those were kind of the contingencies of the no votes, the big categories of it. Yeah, there were more people along the way, and I see that. But here's my point in saying all these things. On January 14th, when I became superintendent of this district, I found a very divided community, and I have worked very hard to unite the community. And you say, well, Dr. Hawkins, how do you say you're trying to unite the community, but yet you have this bond issue that over 2,000 people voted against? That's divisive. Look, families have things that happen to them, and during that time with families, and I don't speak for everybody's families, but I know that my family, you know, we can be divided on certain things, but we still love each other. We still care about each other. And that's what I don't want lost, because here's the other part of it. If I raised 3 girls and a wife of 28 years, and if all of them was in my vehicle right now headed to Killeen, and I said, what do y'all want to eat? There would be the biggest fight you ever seen. Those girls, they will fight like 3 coons in a trash can, I'm telling you. And because they all have their own idea of what they want to eat. I don't like this, or Dad, I don't like that. I've lived through all that, and I know it. And so, but we're all human beings, and we all got our ideas, and we all got our opinions. But we can't ever trade doing the right thing for just unity. You know, there comes a time where hopefully as a society, we all understand that there's things that's bigger than us. And so we've got to do the right thing. And calling for the bond was the right thing. And when we did that, we called for that bond. We knew that, hey, the research says 40% of the people is going to be against you. Well, you know, but you want unity, Dr. Hawkins. I do, but I want to do the right thing, and will always do the right thing. No one is going to agree with me 100% of the time, and I'm at peace with that. You know, I tell people that I take this job, and the decisions that I wind up making, you know, I don't even make 90% of the decisions here. You know, the amount of decisions that I make as superintendent is very limited, because I want to empower and engage people out here that are working in our district to make those decisions, because decentralized command is the most effective command. They're the people who's in the trenches, and I want them making the most of the decisions. But I understand that I will make decisions that sometimes I have to pray a lot about, and that's my real judge, and that's the person that has gotten me through over half a century of life, and that I'm held accountable to. And then I'll make that decision what I think is in the best interest of the kids of this district. And the Board of Trustees is my oversight. They make sure that I don't do anything illegal, immoral, or unethical. But here's what I hope. I didn't get in this to sell ice cream. You sell ice cream, you make everybody happy, right? Well, I got in this to make an impact in the lives of those we serve. And so what I'm hoping is out of 20 decisions, if most of the people in this community look at Dr. Hawkins and they say, hey, this man is engaging, he loves the kids, he's a part of this community, he made a decision, I might not agree with it, but the other 19 decisions that he just made, I do agree with. And then the other thing is what is the end outcome? It is Dr. Hawkins making Cove great again or not? I mean, if I'm making mistakes and doing bozo deals, then hey, I deserve the criticism. But if we're doing things and we're trying to roll up our sleeves every day and make this community better, then to me that's a unifying thing. If I'm doing it out of honesty, if you can see where my heart is, and I'm trying to rally to everyone and make sure that we collaborate, that don't mean we always agree. So that's what I want to say. But I also want to say this, is I'm going to work real hard to ensure that those people who were angry about their taxes or that they had an issue with the district 10 years ago, I'm going to work real hard to earn those people's trust. Because what's not winning is when trust is breached. And we can agree to disagree sometimes and still trust each other. We can have differences in opinion. So, I'm going to work to make sure that those people that voted against the bond feel included as we move forward. I can't make them feel included. I can offer them opportunities, and I can work hard to earn their trust. And if they made up their mind that they're mad at life, I can't do anything about that. But the people who went and voted against, I'm not mad at you. And I wanted to say that because I've not been able to say that until the election was over with. But you're still valued. And one decision, I hope, doesn't define me, and it sure won't define you with me. And so the unity, the pride that we got in our community, the school spirit that we have, that we've tried to promote, the ownership of this community and the school are all things that I'm not backing away from. I'm going to work every day to ensure that our staff is supported, that they have what they need, that our kids feel like that their superintendent, they may not be anybody else in the stands, or may not be anybody else clapping for me, but that guy's going to clap for me. And I'm encouraging everybody to do the same, because I think the brand that we have of our Coppers Cove Bulldogs has more value. And I hope that people can engage and enjoy that value. There are some things that I wanted to also say about the bond, just on a few notes here. There was a study done by some folks at George Mason University, and I think this is, we talk about good things. Here's a good thing right here. The projections of the 165 million. So you'll have to back off of that a little because, Prop C didn't pass. But so these projections are with Prop C included in it. But the projections that they did here showed that a $165 million bond would generate $239 million of economic activity. 96 million of that is and so 239 million of economic activity and 96 million of labor income and 5.4 million of fees, sales tax, and et cetera in our community. And so I think that's important for folks to know that, you made an investment, and that investment is one that will continue to invest back into our community. Those dollars continue to roll over. The other things that I would say is that the data of the bond to me is something that is really interesting. When you look at the bonds sitting out there, November bonds have a 48 to 49% passage rate. May bonds have a 70 to 71% passage rate. And so, when we looked at this round of bonds, 46% of the bonds in the state of Texas passed. And so, for ours to pass, hey, I'm very appreciative of that. And the statistics of that, led us to have conversations. There were 2 board members that were up for re-election. Mr. Wilburn, this is his retirement year and everything, and we appreciate all that he's done over 6 years to represent the district as a student, as a teacher, coach, administrator, and board member. But I talked with those 2 board members, and both those board members said, Dr. Hawkins, we realized the bond would be easier to pass in May, and we realized that it would be easier for us to win re-election, not on the ballot of a bond. And kudos to them. They said, Dr. Hawkins, you do the right thing. The right thing is more important than whether we sit on the board. And so Miss Manning and Miss Copeland, I give them a lot of kudos for that. Because here's the other thing about it. When a bond fails, it's 30% less likely to pass on the second round. So if you got a 46% chance of that bond prevailing, you back off 30 cents, so 30%. We started off with a 16% chance of a bond passing, and yet here it is. The other thing that I say is very unifying is that I said from the get-go, this isn't my bond. This was the community's bond. And so from that standpoint, I think it's important that that we know that so many people, I talked about, that we want to engage those who voted against it, but there were so many advocates that I can't even begin to thank them on this thing, or y'all think that I'm Fidel Castro. And there are so many people along the way that did, dialing smiles. They did. We did the town hall meetings, the superintendent roundtables. That they came out, they talked. That they talked to their neighbors. They put up signs. We did. Different folks did block walks to get the word out and all those things. And so there's just so many people to thank. I'm gonna just have to say, who you are. And I definitely say that I will never forget the work that you put in to that. Ms. Hoffmeyer and Traeger and Wilburn did call outs, and so it was definitely a concerted effort by many people to get the word out and the facts out about this bond, and I thank each and every one of them from a very sincere part of my heart.
Okay, I'm going to switch around our rundown. I have, we're going to talk board recap first, and the reason I want to do that is you kind of touched on it, but I think we need to talk about it at a little more length.
Okay.
Mike Wilburn retiring from the Board of Trustees. 66 years is, again, some of this is rehashing what you said. 66 years as a student, employee, and now a trustee. That is a long time to serve one district. Obviously, he's one of the 7 trustees that Well, really, he's one of the 9 trustees that hired you because there was a transition on the board in between as you were going through the interview process. What will his contribution be when he finally steps away from the board here in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I don't know that you can measure it. I really don't. But I can tell you this. People have, people know that I'm an old sinner. I'm a born again Christian, and I don't make any bones about it. I had a man ask me at one of our volunteer events about it, and he said, well, did you put that on your resume? And I said, well, the board was well aware of who I was, because that is who I am, and I give all grace of making this old farm boy into who I am today through Jesus Christ. And so I prayed extensively before I came to Cove. And let me just tell you this on a personal note of Mike Wilburn. I hope that one day I can be the person that Mike Wilburn is, and I hope nobody lets him. I don't think he watches these things, so don't let him know this. Miss Manning can get on his noggin or something along those lines. But no, Mike Wilburn is truly a person that I would term, a 10 Commandment Christian. And what I'm talking about is this right now is there's this notion by certain people that we need to put 10 Commandments up in our schools and everything. And look, I'm not, I've got my own personal beliefs on that, and I'm saying that as a Christian. But at the same time, what I've said is this: I don't know what your motive is for wanting to do certain things as a government, but when you have people like Mike Wilburn, you don't need to put certain things up like the 10 Commandments. When you look at Mike Wilburn, you look at a man and you say, that guy has something that I want to be. And when I see Mike Wilburn, I see a guy that I want to be a better Christian because of Mike Wilburn and who he is. And I can't say that enough about him. Just, I'm not even talking about being a board member. I'm just talking about being a person. And so when you are that grounded as a person, and you have people who want some of what you're selling, positivity, just the love that he has for other human beings, man, the world would be a lot better if we had more Mike Wilburns in it. But yes, his career has been extensive. He was part of the 9 board members that hired me. And I say that because I think I am the only superintendent in the state of Texas over the past 12 months that was interviewed by 9 board members. And so, I had multiple eyes on me as a candidate. But Mike has contributed, I know, to his church. He's contributed as a father and a husband, got a great family. And then in the school system itself, I continue to hear people say, well, Mr. Wilburn was my principal.
Yep.
And then they have a story. And so there is a tremendous amount of Mike Wilburn stories, but all of them just about come back to the kind of man that he is, who he is as a person, the love he has for other people. There's no doubt that Mike Wilburn served 66 years in this district, and when he picked up a paycheck, it really wasn't about a paycheck. It was about the love and the calling that he has for other human beings. Is why he had that job.
It's funny you mentioned how many people have told you about that. So my wife worked in Killeen for years, and there was a PE teacher at her campus. Of the 3, 2 of the PE teachers at her school were from Coppers Cove. One of them came to a football game with my wife and I, my first year working in Cove, and we went up into the booth so I could say hi to the board, introduce them to my wife, because I don't know that all of them had met her yet. And Mike Wilburn's up there watching the game, and our friend is with me, and she goes, I don't know if you remember me, but you were my principal at J.O. Williams and again at Coppers Cove High School. And he laughed, and he stopped paying attention to the game to talk with her and just said, I hope I wasn't too mean to you. He was joking around with her. He's just that kind of guy. He's always been gracious with me for 2.5 years now, and so it's a big loss. You don't fill those shoes, but it's a well-deserved break for him.
Yeah, and it's been a pleasure to work with Mike. Just from his values and the, the voice that he brings to the board. But I've over the course of my 20 years ago, I've become superintendent, and then it's there's board members that today that I talk to every day, and Mike's relationship, because the kind of person he is he may not be a board member, but he and I still gonna have a relationship in this community.
Continuing talking about the board meeting here, since we last talked, couple of board items, but mostly canvassing the election results, and then tonight is a lot of, and I want to use this to pivot into our next topic, but there's other stuff on there. It's a lot of stuff to, one, continue us on the track to reopen Williams Ledger for those students. But before we talk about Williams Ledger, I promise we're going to get to it. And I'm asking this because it came up at the workshop. As again, we're recording this on Tuesday the 18th. Workshop for the November was Monday the 17th. It came up during workshop, and I don't think he's the only one who's asked that question. But I also think that your explanation was very simple. And what I mean by that is easy to understand, because sometimes we all get caught up in educationese. And so on the agenda, superintendent constraints. What is that actually? And what does that do for you as a leader? Because that's really what it is we've told you what we want you to do, but we also want we want you to keep these in mind. So walk me through that.
Well, it's part of the governance process is actually what it is. And you say I give a simple answer, I've been accused of being simple many times, and so I
don't
think,
say it as a bad thing.
I think that's important though, because I think I can pull my doctoral vocabulary out from my studies and lose folks from time to time. But I think the more you keep things simple, the higher ability for you to execute at that point of continuum. But what you have is the Board of Trustees has set goals for this district, and there's 3 goals that they have for me as superintendent, and they'll evaluate me on those goals in January. It'll be my anniversary to be in this district. And so along that continuum, you have goal progress measures, because, you got a goal of where you're trying to go. But the thing about that goal of where you're trying to go is that you really kind of got to block that out. As a player, you can't worry about the scoreboard. You got to worry about doing the best that you can do each day with what you have, to trust in the process that you set up of, hey, here's where we're trying to go. And we map out this, here's how we're going to get there. So that's your plan. And then along the way, you've got to have these goal progress measures to make sure that you're stacking success on top of success to get to those goals. But with anything else along the way, you can get in the weeds. And so we have 7,700 kids, 1,426 or 27 employees, not including the substitute teachers, that pick up a paycheck in Coppers Cove ISD, and you've got a 40,000 population community around you, and it's real easy to get pulled in all kind of ways and get distracted. And so a constraint is just a guardrail that tells the superintendent and the administrative team, look, we know there's a lot of noise and we know there's a lot of things going on, but don't let these things not happen. And so, those constraints were, they want to keep the district fiscally sound. We want to make sure that the district is fiscally sound. Lots of different districts do a lot of different things. You know, and in our district, you know, it's important that we are financially conservative in the decisions that we make, and that, you know, we don't overspend money. And so that's important to them just as much as that third one on there was for making sure that our kids are performing on the state accountability system at an adequate point. And so that's really what those constraints are, is just it focuses the district on, listen, all these things going on, make sure these things don't get left behind or drop through the cracks.
The second one on there, it's, you know, a corporate culture, fostering that. It really, what that is, you know, in education speak, it's increasing capacity in people. In this, it's empowering your staff to do your job and do it well.
Yeah, so that one right there is another one that, you know, in my interviews with the board, they knew who I was and that this is who I am. I'm not a corporate superintendent. When the jobs were open, I think it's important to know and understand that the superintendent turnover in the state of Texas is maybe greater than the teacher turnover percentage-wise right now, because the weight of that job is just, folks are giving way for whatever reason. Like me, I could have retired 3 years ago, but people aren't doing that. When they're hitting their retirement eligibility, they're going and doing other things. That is the most common thing that's happening right now. So when you have a superintendent that's got 18 years experience sitting out here, people are looking for a known commodity, you know, and it's in every segment of our life. If we're talking about, you know, I watched the NFL game last night, you know, and so, and on there they're talking about hiring football coaches in the SEC, you know, and who's the hottest football coach in the nation right now? Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss is the hottest coach. Why? Well, he's got a good lineage. He coached for Coach Saban, the greatest college football coach of all time. And he's had 3 10-win seasons at Ole Miss. And they're currently ranked in the top 10 in the nation right now. They're going to make the college football playoffs. And so all these folks are wanting Lane Kiffin. And so when you reach that point, you reach that point that these people are wanting him because of his experience. The best predictor of future performance is past performance. Well, the superintendent role is no different. You know, you look around and the line is real short of people with experience. So if you take a person that's not got experience, then you better make sure that that's person is right, because there is a learning curve associated with his job. Now, I know that some people would think that it's, you know, you can coach LSU or wherever, you know, like it's Madden 2025, but there's a lot more involved in that, and there's a lot more skill involved in the job that I do. And so when you look at that list of people that's out there, you know, the traditional path of superintendents moving up and getting the big job and ending their career as career path is still there, but it accelerates because the line is so short. So why did you come to Cove? What was it about Cove? I saw something in Cove that I thought we could get next level. I thought we could be special. I think that, and I still think this today, that that there are some tangibles here in this community that we can truly make this even greater place than what it was when I applied for that job. And so when you look at some of these other places, they're bigger, they're more corporate, they pay more money. That wasn't what I wanted. I'm a person who is relational, and you've noticed at the football games, you know, I sit out and enjoy. I watch the parents as much as I watch the kids, because, you know, I am a parent, and I was an athletic parent, and so to watch these parents and the excitement that they have for the kids and to get to know them as a community, that's what I wanted to be about. I wanted to be a person who was in your kids' schools. I wanted to be a person who was in the community. I want to be a person who is encouraging engagement, encouraging empowerment, as I've talked about. But yeah, very much that small town feel in a big school environment. And I think we can do that. You just got to be high energy. You got to grab another gear because there's so much going on. And sometimes there's 4 things scheduled, and I can't be at all 4 things. But if there's something that the Dawgs are doing, I'm going to be there. And that's in classrooms and teaching. It's everywhere. And so I think that's the board's desire, because they hired me, that they do want to see respect. They want to see enthusiasm. They want to see school spirit in our community. And so, I'm kind of the face of that. And so if I'm modeling that for everyone, I kind of expect everyone in the district to be doing the same thing. I went to a volunteer deal this weekend, and I was standing over there in my cap, and the lady turned around and she said, "Oh, Dr. Hawkins," said, I didn't realize that was you. I said, "Why not?" She said, "Well, you're not all dressed up, and so, there's a time where you put on your blue jeans and you go and enjoy the community." And that I think is the essence of engagement, interaction with our community that the board wants to see for our community.
You talk about your style of leadership. I'm going to blow up your spot a little bit, and it's not a bad thing at all. And in fact, I appreciate it greatly, and I've told my wife that. I don't think you and I talked about my job when you got into the district, because whether it's the bond or when you got introduced, you and I have spent most of the calendar year 2025 attached at the hip, it seems. But I don't think we ever talked about work until about 4 or 5 conversations in, because you're talking about making sure, you're relational in your style. And I'll be the first to admit that as a PR and a communications director, changing leadership is not the easiest thing to go through, because your boss has a style, just like the 2 guys in the next room over would tell you that I have a style, and they had to learn some new things. And so, but you have come to me multiple times and, hey, I think we need A, B, C, D, or E done. You decide how we get there. And so really, and obviously everything's different. Here's my strategy for it. Sounds great. Get it done. That goes a long way for me as a director who works under you, because, I don't know if you in the community are aware, he does my appraisal at every year. And so, that, you say you're a relational leader, I think it's imperative on me at that point those aren't just words, that you exercise that, and I'm walking proof of it.
No, and you're right. I mean, people have got to know me through podcasts. They get to know me through, they see Hawks Talk, they see different things, but that's really not who I am. If I could not do any of these things, I'd be tickled, but it's part of the job. I had much rather meet the 40,000 people in this district at Black Meg's over a hamburger and a soda pop. I'm more of a guy who, likes to sit and talk. I guess you'd say live and in color. But really, that's my style. I don't like the memo deal. I want to sit down and visit with you one-on-one. I've had tons of people come to the office and visit with me. I've met tons of people. If there's a point of frustration for me in doing my job, it is that I wish I was here longer so I could know more people at this point. And so, but that comes with time. You can only meet so many people at once. And, it's not just about meeting them. It's about truly fostering a relationship with them. Just meeting somebody. That you can do that in a ballroom, but I'm talking about really getting to know people. And the thing here about Cove is this, been in several other districts, but the point that I am in life is that I feel compelled to coach, You know, I want to add value in every one. And I can't add value if it's always me in the spotlight and I'm just, you know, trying to, you know, be in love with being on the video. That's not what I'm about. I'm about building capacity in everyone, because the stronger capacity that you build in everyone, the stronger your team is. Now, from that team standpoint, I have been so blessed. You know, told my wife, you know, my birthday was last week, and it's, you know, one of the best birthday presents I got is the people that I get to work with because of their skill level. And it would be a crime to, hey, Kurtis, here's you projects A, B, C, and D, and this is the way that I want them done. And not that, you know, sometimes you run things by me and I say, well, hey, try this, or have you thought about that? That is building capacity in others and not micromanaging. And so if I'm micromanaging somebody, it's because they're in need of strong intervention. But that's not, I want people who, you know, and have walked into a situation with some fabulous, you know, Jimmy and Amanda and the whole cabinet, Monica. I mean, I couldn't do my job without Monica Hall because, you know, I don't tell her how to do that. But she keeps me organized, and I'm very appreciative, because here's the deal. To maximize my time, to be able to sit and talk with community members, to be able to get out to the campuses, if I'm organizing my life, that's time that I don't have to do that. So I have to trust other people in order to be able to maximize myself in this school district. And we are very blessed with a great team here that serves kids. And yeah, there's always yeah, but y'all did this wrong. Well, let me tell you, that is a speck in the eye of what we actually do, because there is a million good things that goes on in this district each and every day. Not that we don't have challenges, but that we hope that we always handle those the right way. And I couldn't be more proud of the team we have. You know, it's to the point that, you know, I also am very cognizant of not wanting to build too much capacity in other people because they go to other places. But no, that's not me at all. I met with some folks today. One of the people I met with was talking about, you know, going to another place and that they were going to have to live in another place. Now, like, Dr. Hawkins, I had never sat in place and had that conversation and it not go as good as this one's went. I said, look, if I truly care about you, then I care about what's best for you. And, you know, if you do get another job in a bigger district and that's what you want to do, that's great. God's going to bring us somebody else that we can continue to do his work and build capacity in them with.
All right, so that's a little bit of a touch on the board agenda. Again, you can read recaps on at ccisd.com/news or in the Hawks Talk newsletter posted every week that we have a board meeting at ccisd.com/superintendent. Williams Ledger. A lot of the items on Tuesday night's agenda pertain to that campus, and so I'll ask a very vague question and we can kind of take the conversation from there. I know you're not. I know that this is one of those things that it's a frustrating project to deal with because it's an insurance project. So there's parts of it that are out of our control. As much as we would love to have that, where are we?
Yeah, well, I think the answer would be progressing, and you know, when insurance gets involved and those things, you know, it takes forever because they don't like to pay you. And they're in control, so they slow pay you. So they make more money on their money than if they just paid you and did the right thing and moved along timely. And so that's very frustrating. But where we are is, you know, the inside of Williams Ledger was completely gutted. And so it was stripped down to the studs. All of the sheetrock was hauled out. All of the flooring will go, the carpets, all those things, the ceiling tiles, and you'll have a new ceiling on it. The board is considering tonight, you know, all the new air conditioning system to go on top of that thing. And the December board meeting, we'll have a financial recap of that so that the board can see it. Hopefully, we'll get a good payment from the insurance company by then. But yeah, you're looking at a $8+ million project, and so, but to me, it was the silver lining is that that campus is going to be very nice. LED lighting, new flooring, new walls, new paint. It's going to be like walking into a new school, and that school was, an early '90s school, and so it's due a little fresh up. And so, that school is going to look like a brand new school when those kids walk into it in August. Hopefully, the contractor will be through sometime in May. We can get all the teachers that we had to move to other campuses, pull back to Williams Ledger so that we can open that thing. Elementary teachers kind of like to spend a little time in July getting things lined back up and lined out so that they can be ready for meet the teacher and things like that, and do the special things in their classrooms that they do. We've gotten sheetrock back up. We've gotten the LED lights going back up. The flooring has been ordered, and we're looking for it to be shipped fairly soon. And so we're making tremendous progress in that thing. And I know you've got some pictures that you'll put up on the website that folks can kind of see a little bit about it. But it's coming together, and hopefully we can keep pushing forward and to get that thing and it look really nice for the kids and staff.
I'll add, you kind of hinted at it in that answer, but I want to ask because I know the trustees asked. We've jokingly called him our lead park ranger on this show, but Dr. Shuck last night. When do we think it'll be ready for kids and for staff to return?
Well, we're saying August because we anytime you start giving deadlines, you wind up getting in trouble because contractors can't. There's something that will happen. If it's a baseball, softball project,
it's going to rain.
It's going to rain. If it's a Lee Ledger project in there, there's going to be supply chain issues. And so we've encountered that there. Both of those projects are set December 31st. They have been. December 31st is their deadline on those two projects. We anticipate staff can come back into the building sometime in July, and at the start of school, students will be able to come back in the building.
Anything we're missing on Williams Ledger at this point?
No. I just think that from a taxpayer standpoint, I've kind of talked about from a parent school standpoint, but from a taxpayer standpoint, we've tried to do things like replace the lighting with LED lights. That saves taxpayer money that we can reappropriate into other investments in the district for the students and staff. The floors, not putting VCT tile back in there and putting LVT tile back in there saves labor costs, saves waxing costs during the summers. Those of you who've never been in the school during the summer, it just kind of gets all piled out into the hallway, and the classrooms have to, if it's VCT tile, have to be waxed, stripped, waxed. Furniture, so there's a lot of furniture moving going on and all those things. And so, everything that we're trying to do is to make our district more efficient. If that is labor cost of moving furniture, or if that's the cost of LED lights to stretch our tax dollars, then that's what we're doing. And I think that's important as a taxpayer that they know that.
And part of that is we're expecting. I don't remember if you've said if it's next year or in the coming years, but at some point the energy rate contract will come up for renewal, and the rate will go up like everything else.
Yeah, it's we've been locked into that contract. That's been very much a blessing, and I could credit. When we went through that bond process, I continued to hear certain things about they wanted to. Somebody with a Facebook account wanting to bash the Board of Trustees. Well, here's something that you can clap for the Board of Trustees for. They locked in that contract, and we've been operating these past few years here, 3 years I think, on a very cheap electric rate, very much a fraction of what I was paying in my former district, because in that district, it was regulated in that area. You had to use the city of Livingston. You had to use Chico. So you didn't really get a choice. Like here, you got like 70 different choices that you can make for electricity. And so the district really was smart in locking in that rate. And we are anticipating that rate will go up. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And so, once again, that rate goes up, so our cost goes up. But in essence, the students' encumbrance that we're getting from the state for each student isn't going up at that same rate. So we have to find ways to ensure that we are meeting the needs of our district by making our district operate more efficiently.
And that's where that LED lighting comes into play, because
Absolutely.
lower energy usage.
Right.
And so higher rate, lower usage, you hope at the worst it balances out. But
better ability to see in that building and cheaper consumption of electricity.
Yeah. Lee Ledger Auditorium, you mentioned we're on track for the end of the year there. That's where replacing the rigging. This is a project that was approved by the board while you were going through the interview process, but this is supply chain issues.
It is. It was approved before I got here. It is a fund balance project, just as the baseball softball field is. But we've got an absolute beautiful auditorium there. It's the pride of the district. And so, Dr. Burns and the board worked together to bring that project forth. And, the hiccups in it is scheduling and everything else. But December 31st was the deadline on that, or completion on the timeline of that. And they have had some hiccups along the way with not being able to get some of the items that they needed to get because they're back ordered or the shipment was delayed or those things. And we've had staff members that were very excited, enthusiastic. They wanted to tell different timelines. No, we're going to get it by this day or this day. And you know me, if you watch any of that, I don't do that. December 31st is the deadline. We will do everything we can to try to motivate those people who are our vendors to get it done before then. And if they get it done before then, we have undersold and over-delivered.
Looking forward as we wrap things up here on this episode. Obviously, Thanksgiving break is next week, but when you and I were talking before we hit record today, it was all about progress. That as we look forward, continuing that progress and continuing to deliver on the promises that this district and its administration has made, that's important but exciting at the same time.
Yeah, I think that the number one thing that anybody that's sitting here that knows anything about Cove today has to understand is there's better days ahead. If you know anything about Cove and you don't think that our future is brighter than our present, I don't know really how to help you, because we've got great people in this district. We've got great kids in this district. And the Board of Trustees, as I told you from the election and the bond and everything, they get second guessed and all of those things along the way. But we've really been able to build from a foundation of the past. And I think a lot of criticisms of the board has been very unfounded, and sometimes it comes from people who just don't understand the school business, because the school business isn't like running Walmart. Okay, it's different. And so, but financially we're in very good shape, and I just speak from the past 10 months. What good has happened in the last 10 months? Well, the first thing is that you look at, there were two $6 million deficit budgets, okay? And when you think about those deficit budgets, you think about, well, the last one wasn't really $6 million. Well, it really is when you dig into the details. And I can argue that point, or you can accept that what I'm saying is fact. But I can debate you if you want to debate about where the budget is. There was $6 million shortfall this past year, and $6 million the year before. And so that was cut over $5 million down to, $300 and some odd $1,000. So multi-millions was cut out of the budget to make us operate more efficiently. Okay. With that said, the employees got a 3% pay raise, and then across the board. And then, you look at the programmatic expansion that we made. Career tech is very much a passion for me. And we went from one teacher to like 16 teachers. There were adjunct faculty members, not in academic dual credit, but in career technology. And so what does that mean? Copperas Cove High School, of 2,307 students that we turned in the number to UIL, over half of those students are taking a college class.
Yep.
So, y'all, that is a lot of kids that is getting college credit in one shape, form, or fashion. And so I think that is a great success point. And the two other success points I think that you have to look at is most districts, if they pass a bond, they're jubilant. We passed a historic bond, the largest bond proposition in the history of this district after one had failed. And so I think you got to give credit where credit is due. There's great things coming facility-wise for our kids. And then the other thing, to recap everything, is the lifeblood of what we do, is those relationships that we build and operate in our district, built on trust, built on transparency, built on school spirit, built on just that whole aspect of unity of our community. If you can't look out and see that things is different, if you can't look out and see flags flying on 190 with a bulldog on them, or at our campuses with a flag flying with a bulldog, a lot more blue and gold, in our school and our community, then, maybe you need to slow down a little bit, because it's abundantly clear that folks love the brand. They love being a dog.
Dr. Hawkins, happy Thanksgiving. Let's do this again soon.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, and especially Millie.
Yeah, little Millie. We had her first birthday party. We had a lot of fun with her, and so I'm excited. It'll be the first one where she actually is aware of what's happening. We brought her home a few days before Thanksgiving last year, and she kind of just laid on the couch and slept like 10-day-old babies usually do.
And come Christmas, that tree will suffer some abuse.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. All right, Dr. Hawkins, appreciate your time.
God bless and go Dogs.
For Superintendent Dr. Brent Hawkins, I'm Director of Communications, Curtis Quillen, saying thanks for joining us on Take Two with Hawk. We'll see you next time. For now, good night and go Dogs.